Good morning. I'm Harley Schlanger from the Larouche organization with your daily video update for July 21st, 2022. Well, we said at the outset of the attempt by the West to destroy Russia that sanctions against Russia will boomerang against the Western populations, especially due to the degradation inflicted on the physical economy by years of neoliberal economic policies, the free trade, free market policies, as well as the green ideological foolishness. Well, we're now moving into a new level of that degradation. There are a number of examples I can give you which show the extent to which we're about to lose the capability to produce the goods necessary to sustain human life at even a minimal level on this planet. For example, the CEO of Germany's largest ammonia producer and leading fertilizer producer, SKW, said that if Russian natural gas is cut off, that they would have to shut down all production, which would have a devastating effect on European agriculture. Secondly, you have the executives at ThyssenKrupp, Germany's largest steel producer, and BASF, which is the world's largest chemical company. They say that they face idling or even complete shutdown if there's a cutoff of Russian natural gas. European energy companies have taken on $1.7 trillion of new debt since the beginning of 2020. They're now demanding bailouts to avoid bankruptcy. And this is at a point at which there are forecasts of dramatic shortages of electricity coming up this fall and winter. And then you have the analysts at Swiss bank UBS, who are predicting a deep fall in industrial output in Germany, which they say will lead to a, quote, deep recession, unquote. Well, they don't want to talk about the word depression, but that's what we're looking at. And finally, as we reported yesterday, 25 nations are facing default on foreign debt obligations. And this could trigger reactions through the banking system, chain reaction collapse. Now, that's just minimally what we're facing, along with food shortages threatening billions of people. Lyndon LaRouche, in an essay in 2004, addressed this. The essay was titled "Toward a Second Treaty of Westphalia, the Coming Eurasian World." And we're seeing, again, the prophetic quality of LaRouche's writings in addressing the long-term cyclical effects of these kinds of economic transformations toward lower energy efficiency, toward cutbacks in production, and so on. What he wrote at that time was that those in finance and government don't see this coming because, quote, they are gripped hysterically by the fearful delusion that a crash of the type which is now onrushing simply would never happen. Unless certain radical changes of the type I would propose were taken, the crash deemed unthinkable by most today will happen, unquote. Now, some people brush off LaRouche's statements by saying that, well, there are officials in finance and government who intend that this should happen, as a prelude to their imposition of the proposed Great Reset. Now, this is true. But knowing this is no consolation. Billions of lives are threatened by these insane policies. We should never underestimate the insanity or evil of those in power as a basis for bad policy, especially in the case of neoliberal economics or the promotion of war or the ideology of green policy. But the task in front of us is not to save this collapsing system or to shrug our shoulders and say nothing can be done until it collapses and then we have to have a reform, because that threatens human life. There's no guarantee that the collapse will lead to a positive outcome. Our role is to replace it with a system which works. Now, that is underway. And our proposals to end the sanctions, as Helga Zepp-LaRouche had just put forward in a statement yesterday, which will be linked at the bottom of the description here, But those proposals, end the sanctions, stop the flow of weapons to Ukraine, put the economy into bankruptcy reorganization with a new Bretton Woods system, these are necessary steps. These will work. These will take power away from the insane lunatics who are pushing ahead with their designs, and will restore the principles of physical economic production, which are essential for mankind to survive. So click on the link below for Helga's statement to get a sense of what must be done. Now, in order to do this, we need bold, creative leadership. We need to do this in the tradition of actions of previous generations who faced crises not by shrugging their shoulders saying there's nothing you can do until there's a collapse, but actually put mankind on a different trajectory. Now, this is happening, as I said, Russia and China through Eurasian integration, the Belt and Road Initiative, development policies that would bring the Middle East into the Belt and Road Initiative, economic development policies in Africa, in South and Central America. These are all underway. Of course, they're opposed by the globalists who run the financial system because it would take their power away. But governments are beginning to have a sense of the sovereign power that they can assert. And that's in our favor. And we need to do that in the United States. Now, Putin came out again yesterday and said, don't blame Russia for your self-inflicted wounds. And we see the effect of these self-inflicted wounds. After Boris Johnson's collapse in the United Kingdom, Mario Draghi is now out in Italy. He's resigned. New elections are likely in October. Now, Draghi is one of the worst of the leaders in Europe. He was a strong backer of NATO in the assault against Russia. He's a diehard supporter of the European Union green policies and the consolidation of EU financial control. Now, as he was on his way out the door, the European Union joined with rating agencies to say if he's forced out, there would be no support for Italy's sovereign debt unless the interim government went along with the same policies. So these kinds of threats against sovereign nations are unacceptable. Will the people of Italy submit to that? Will we see strikes and demonstrations, tractorcades, and so on throughout Europe right now? And a sense of the desperation in the establishment was in a statement issued July 19th by RUSI, the Royal United Services Institute, a leading British think tank, where they lamented the failure of soft power so far in defeating Russia. By soft power, what do they mean? So-called hybrid warfare, the control of the narratives, using censorship and lies to win support for policies. They're saying it's not working. What was one of the solutions they proposed? The West has to use TikTok to appeal to developing sector countries in the global South to win the battle. This just shows the idiocy of the people who are pursuing these draconian globalist policies. Now, our solution, circulate the Helga Zepp Larouche statement. Read it, study it, circulate it, share it. Share this video. Get people on our websites, the Larouche Organization, the Schiller Institute, to begin the dialogue process of upgrading the thinking away from pessimistic acceptance of a collapse into actually aggressive organizing for solutions. Our goal is not to win the narrative war, but to use the truth to combat the brainwashing, which is making Western populations fatalistic. Fatalistic in the sense that they believe that there's nothing they can do to turn this around until a crash occurs, and then maybe by the grace of God, something good will occur. Well, we have to act on the basis of our understanding of natural law. And we have to prevent this global dictatorship from coming into place and take power away from London, Brussels, and Wall Street, and put it back in the hands of sovereign nation states. This process is underway. Join us now, and let's make sure that we act in time to give humanity a better future. Thanks for joining me today. If you have some questions for me, I'll be taking them tomorrow with the usual Friday questions format. So send them to me at harleysch@gmail.com.